They said the dangerous alien beast had to be sacrificed, but the human gently fed and pet it. The whole colony gathered at dusk where the marsh met the metal bones of the floodwall. Lanterns flickered along the catwalks, reflecting in the black water, and the wind carried the swamp-sweet scent of kelp and rust. In the center of the clearing hunched the beast, trussed with braided cable, its slate-blue hide beaded with water, its 6 eyes half-lidded in a daze. It was larger than a shuttle, all thick shoulders and a sweeping tail that ended in a luminous fin. The elders called it a rippleback. Most just called it a monster. Before the spring storms an offering, Matron Hell announced, voice cutting the wind. To quiet the geothermal vents, so the marsh won't rise and swallow us whole. Salim Dar stood at the edge of the crowd, fists tucked into the pockets of his patched coat. He'd found the rippleback 3 days ago tangled in a dredge net, thrashing, singing low tones that vibrated in his chest. He'd heard fear in that song, not malice. He had sent a comm for help, but the council had sent trappers instead. Now a percussionist stepped forward with a metal drum. The rhythm began, slow, solemn, final. A boy carried a spear longer than he was tall. Salim slipped out of the crowd. "Don't," he said, the word barely bigger than a breath, as he stepped into the lantern glow. The beast's head tipped toward him, those 6 eyes aligning with his. Its fin shawl trembled. A cluster of biolights along its spine flared, then dimmed. Matron Hell's gaze was ice. "Mr. Dar, you brought it in. You of all people should know our rights." "I know the vents have been worse every season," Salim said. "And I know we've offered, and each year the floods creep higher." A scoff from the trappers. "You calling the rights useless, boy? I'm saying you're about to kill something you don't understand." Salim raised both hands, palms open. He stepped to the rippling flank. He could smell the brine on it, the copper edge of stress. He pulled a packet from his coat, soft algae cakes, hand-pressed that afternoon, and peeled back the wax. "Easy," he murmured, the way he used to speak to skittish cargo beasts back in the hills. He broke a cake, held it out. The rippleback lifted its head, nostrils tasting the air. It hummed, a tremor like distant thunder. Slowly, cautiously, it took the offering, tongue warm, rough, deft as a hand. The crowd hissed. Someone muttered a prayer. Salim pressed his free hand to the creature's cheek. The skin was firm but not armored, warm with a living heat. The humming deepened, settled. The luminous fin unclenched like a breath. The cables creaked. "See," he said softly, eyes never leaving those 6 pupils. "We can choose something other than fear." Shout. 2 trappers lunged. Salim didn't flinch. The rippleback's fin flashed hot white. The men stumbled back, clutching ears. The note that poured off the beast wasn't aggression. It was warning. The ground itself seemed to answer. A deep crack sounded from the floodwall. Heads snapped toward the river barrier. A seam along the east sluice swept dark water. The drumbeat stopped. Salim's mind raced. The hum he'd felt in the marsh. The way the rippleback's song altered when it faced the vents. The biolights flickering in sync with tremors beneath the mud. He fumbled for his field recorder and tapped a saved clip. The rippleback's call, catalogued in his notes as Tone B. "Listen," he said. He played it. The beast answered, harmonizing, the tone climbing in strange, aching intervals. The flood wall shuddered again, and the seep slowed. The colonists looked between the beast and the wall, between the ritual logic they'd always known and a new possibility forming in front of them like a path through fog. "You brought it here," Matron Hell said, voice tight. "Fix what comes of it." Salim nodded. "Untie it." "No." He met her stare. Then I'll cut it loose. He didn't wait for permission. He moved to the knots. The trappers shouted. One grabbed his shoulder, but the rippleback's fin flared again and the man staggered away, face gone white with nausea. The cables fell one by one. The creature rose, water sheeting from its back, casting cold on Salim's hands. It stood without towering, as if it knew how small humans were and chose not to frighten them. "Come with me," Salim said. He jogged along the catwalk toward the east sluice. The rippleback slid into the water with that same thunder hum, keeping pace. At the sluice he saw the problem. A valve jam had the floodgate locked half open. The rising pressure from below, vent gas riding the tide, was ready to turn that seam into a wound. Salim clicked through his recorder, found the interval he'd heard in the marsh when the muck went still. He whistled it, clumsy but true. The rippleback responded, stronger, deeper, harmonics shaking the catwalk rails. The water bucked, then smoothed, like an animal pressed by a soothing hand. Salim set the recorder to loop, holding it close to the creature's jawline to echo the tone back. He reached for the manual release wheel. "Don't, it'll blow," someone cried. "Not if it's singing," Salim said. He put his weight to the wheel. It didn't budge. The rippleback shifted, brought its body against the wall as if to brace it. Biolight raced along its spine. The hum climbed. The pressure gauge at the sluice edge ticked down by a hair. He pushed. The wheel grudged an inch, then two. Metal screamed. The floodgate dropped with a shuddering thunk, sealing the seam. The seep cut off. For a heartbeat there was only the echo of the humming and the tick-tick-tick of settling steel. Then the colonists cheered. It wasn't over. The spring storms would still come. The vents would still wake. But a new story had been written into the night. After, Salim sat on the edge of the catwalk, boots dangling above black water, the rippleback's head resting near his knee. Its breath was warm, salt-sweet. He fed it the last of the algae cakes and scratched where the luminous fin joined its neck. The beast's eyes drifted closed in pleasure. Matron Hell approached slowly, the lines in her face deeper. "What is it doing?" "Listening," Salim said. "Tuning to the vents. I think it can shepherd them. Like an old-world whale coaxing a boat from rocks. And if we'd killed it, the marsh would have taken us," he said, not unkindly. She studied the creature's biolights flicker in ripples that matched the faint tremors underfoot. She nodded once, a small surrender. "Then we will revise our rites." In the weeks that followed, the colony learned a new rhythm. Children carried algae cakes down to the floodwall at dusk. Salim mapped tones against pressure drops and trained the dredgers when to hum and when to hush. The rippleback, someone named it Quiet, took to circling the sluices during storms, fin lanterning the color of wet moonlight. Once, when a vent gas bolt churned the marsh into froth, Quiet dove and sang, and the froth subsided like soot in a jar, leaving still water and a colony that slept through the night. Not everyone loved it. Fear clung to habits like barnacles. But when the spring's worst storm bled out into nothing more than a soft rain and a story to tell, even the trappers found themselves lingering at the catwalk, palms resting on warm, slate hide, feeling their bones hum. On the first clear evening, Matron Hell called a gathering. No drum, no spear. Just lanterns and the river. She raised a cup. "Once we offered blood for mercy," she said. "Now we offer bread for friendship. May we keep listening." Salim didn't speak. He didn't need to. He stood with one hand on Quiet's brow, feeling the gentle thrum resonate up his arm and into his chest, a reminder that this world was alive in ways they had not deserved but had been given the grace to learn. As night folded over the marsh, the beast's fin drew a line of light on the water, a boundary and a bridge. And on that fragile edge between fear and understanding, a human's open hand found its home.